Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time around, we're checking out a mod by the name of Hearts of Demons Baron. This is a gameplay mod that puts you squarely in the shoes of an extremely disgruntled Baron of Hell who has become, I believe, quite dissatisfied with the management of Hell and has decided to openly rebel. As you can probably tell, the form that this rebellion takes largely involves beating the ever-loving crap out of your demonic compatriots, be it through projectiles or by just digging rocks out of the ground through sheer force of strength in order to bludgeon your former allies in the face. I gotta say, it does a damn good job of just conveying the sense of power and heft straight away when you start playing this. The way the Baron moves feels weighty, the way he digs the rocks out of the ground feels like there's a great amount of effort going into it. And you may have also noticed that in the bottom left-hand corner, this Baron also has 1,000 points of health standard, and those points can be overcharged, making you pretty difficult to take down. This Baron is basically built like a brick shithouse. These imps do not stand a single chance, and every single one of them is gonna go squish. But by now you're probably wondering, well, where do you go from here? What do you do with the Baron once you're done with the punching and the squishing and the damaging of level walls? Well, obviously, you give the Baron a gun. Now this ain't any regular old gun, mind you, this is the Azazel magic autocannon, and the thing that makes this particularly interesting is the fact that it can take 3 different types of ammo, can sport multiple fire modes, and also boasts the potential to become magically imbued. Going from the top, however, you've got 20mm mildly explosive bullets, at least in its primary mode, and you've got a rapid fire secondary. You've also got access to flak ammunition, which can deal a bit of hefty direct damage, and finally you've also got access to rockets, which unfortunately I don't have right now. As you may suspect from the ammo types, it does mean you get access to the weapons that use them as default, such as the flak cannon here, which most assuredly brings back memories of the flak cannon from Unreal Tournament. The similarities also extend to the fire modes, with the primary fire sending a fairly wide spread of flak careening into enemy faces, whereas the secondary fire fires the entire cartridge in one go. Wherever it impacts, the remaining flak will blossom outwards from there, damaging anything unfortunate enough to be stood nearby. Next up, we have quite possibly one of the most effective weapons in Hearts of Demons, the multi-rocket cannon. And the reason why this is so effective is not just because it packs a punch, but because it also lays down a carpet of highly devastating napalm at the feet of your enemies on impact. The trade-off here is it will also damage you if you walk across those flames, and it'll also cause your frame rate to suffer quite significantly if you lay too much of it down. As for the secondary fire, it shoots a rocket that separates into smaller rockets that then home in on the nearest enemy. Not quite as devastating as the primary fire, but still occasionally quite fun to use. Believe it or not, you can also activate a multi-rocket fire mode with this thing, spewing out even more rockets simultaneously, and pretty much destroying anything that has the poor fortune to be caught in the same room as you. Essentially, you're pretty much unstoppable when you've got this thing, until, of course, you run out of ammunition, but even then, the other weapons are far from ineffective. Believe it or not, you've also got access to a host of magical abilities, provided you pick up the scrolls and runes first. In this case, we've got a magical enchantment that buffs the abilities of the weapon in hand, and just in general makes it a heck of a lot more devastating. This works for all weapons, and it's just wonderfully mad that you can take your weapons a step further from the already tremendously devastating forms. The only kicker to this is that mana does indeed drain exceedingly quick when you're using enchantments, so you have to really pick the right time to use it, or at least make sure you've saved up enough to use it for prolonged periods. Outside of weapons, you can also equip your spells in either of your Baron's hands, which is a really cool system. I wasn't expecting this to be the case. I was expecting these spells to be more of a single-use inventory type deal, but no, you can choose which hand you're gonna hurl your fireballs from, or maybe both if you fancy dual-wielding spells, which is assuredly an option. I've also got the Immolation spell here, which is quite possibly one of my favorites, just because it's so satisfying to use, and because you can dual wield it, and you can cut through those demons like a hot knife through butter. It is tremendously powerful, and as I mentioned earlier, yes, you do have to watch out for the mana cost of using this, but as you progress, you will pick up crystals that will increase your spell level, and that generally gives you an increase in mana capacity. Oh hey, remember the Azazel magic autocannon? Well, it turns out you can put spells in the damn barrel, not just ammunition from other guns, but spells. Granted, you can't put every single spell in this thing, because not every single spell in this is suited to being shot out of the end of a friggin' gun, but still, that is a wonderfully mad touch. That is the philosophy of why not throw in the kitchen sink? Why not put the spells in the gun, as well as being able to enchant the damn thing with magic? And this is what really tips Baron over for me as a mod. It's got just enough madness in it to make you giggle, to go, oh, that's a thing! That's actually legitimately great. Speaking of things that give me a giggle, this was actually one of the last guns I picked up while running through this mod, and at first, I wasn't thinking much of it, and then I held down the trigger and it just kept going, and the enemies kept exploding. And then I thought, you know what, I can enchant this thing, and oh boy, does it just get better. It's pretty fun. It's pretty goddamn fun. So you're probably wondering about all the other spells you can grab in this mod, and the truth is they're actually a little tricky to come by in the wild, at least in one single cohesive run of a map, so I thought I'd crack open the old test wad here and give you a quick rundown of all the stuff you can play around with. We've already seen the Fireball and Immolation spells, but have you seen the Meteor spell? I think not. You know what, I'm gonna do it again. As far as spells that involve calling down a giant destructive magic rock from the heavens go, that's pretty on point. We've also got Defile, which is for, well, defiling the corpses of your enemies to give yourself a little bit of a power boost. It's probably one of the more low-key spells, one that I don't really use all that much in the chaos of the moment. But one that I find could be quite useful is the Hydra Summon, which is the next spell. This actually allows you to summon 6 of these at the same time. They're stationary, they don't follow you around, but they can do a neat bit of support fire if you so require. The final spell, though, this is where it gets pretty cool. You can clone yourself, and this clone can actually use all of the spells that you can use. And yes, that includes calling down a meteor. Now, I don't know about you, but that is pretty friggin' awesome. Oh, you thought we were done with the spells? Well, guess what? We ain't, because you can boost them. You can boost them much like you can enchant your weapons, adding an additional layer of power. The fireballs, for example, fire additional fireballs all over the shop. Immolation turns into a ground fire shockwave of sorts. The meteor, as far as I can tell, remains much the same, maybe a bigger area of devastation, and the Hydras do what they usually do, sit around awkwardly waiting for you to spawn an enemy for them. But your clone, if you spawn them while in boosted form, can use all of your boosted spells, so that is certainly something. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that I have really enjoyed my time with this particular gameplay mod. It was a bit of an unexpected treat for me. I went into this not knowing a whole bunch about its systems. I purposefully avoided the forum post detailing all the weapons and the power-ups, just to, get a first-hand glimpse, a first-hand reaction to what it's all about. And at nearly every juncture, it has managed to pleasantly surprise me. I will say one thing though, I would heavily recommend playing this with more chaotic maps such as Sunder, which I'm currently playing right now, Slaughterfest 2012, or any other kind of map which you classify as a slaughter map, because this really shines when you're up against a overwhelming horde. Yeah, this is a power trip through and through, not the kind of thing that is balanced for a nuanced challenge, but something that's balanced more for blowing the crap out of everything and feeling good about it in the process. But much like I said right near the start of this video, I really have to commend how this mod feels to play. It is fantastic. The sense of weight, the sense of heft is absolutely on point. deafening slam that the Baron's hooves make when you just drop from a small ledge onto the ground just makes you believe you're in this hulking, death-dealing, demonic badass, and the feel of the weapons themselves gives you the impression that if anything else other than the Baron was wielding it, it would probably rip their arm right off if they tried to fire it. That is just wonderful attention to detail, in my opinion. Speaking of attention to detail, also very much enjoying the work put into the head-up display at the bottom of the screen there. Definitely taking inspiration from Diablo with the health and mana meters, but fitting in very nicely with the theme of the mod itself. So yeah, all around just a tremendously solid and entertaining package. One that I would not hesitate to recommend. To that particular end, if this has tickled your fancy, you can find the download link for Hearts of Baron's Demon. What? No, that's not the name. Hearts of Demon's Baron, as usual, in the description below. While I'm at it, I'd like to give a great big thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so very much for supporting the channel and for helping to make content like this possible. If you're interested in supporting the channel yourself and getting some sweet perks such as early access to new episodes of Doom Mod Madness and even getting to see your name in the credits, then all you need to do is follow the link to my Patreon page, which is also in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.